After more than a decade of writing songs for bands, Melbourne-based singer and songwriter extraordinaire Wren Bellette finally decided to go solo and perform under her own name. Wren started her songwriting and performing journey in the well-known and very popular band The Hegartys and ended up becoming their principal songwriter and singer. The band released an EP and a self-titled album, performed at the 2018 Tamworth Country Music Festival, as well as the Americana Festival in Nashville on 2 occasions. In that same year, they won the People's Choice Award for Best Country Act at the South Australia Music Awards. When Wren left the band in early 2019, and in September of that year, she started her own group, Wren and the Restless Few. What a great name for a band. I love it. And they promptly entered the studio to commence recording Wren's deeply impressive debut album entitled This Love Will Die, from which I just played my favourite track a minute ago, that being Don't Die Young. And that's great advice, if I ever heard it. There can be no doubt that Wren has done the hard yards and well and truly paid her dues, and I'm very much looking forward to watching her solo career blossom and meet with all the success and good fortune this uber-talented songstress has earned. I'm genuinely delighted to have Wren standing by on the phone, waiting to have a chat with me, so allow me to bring her on air without any further ado. Hello, Wren, how are you today?
Hey, Harry, how are you?
I'm good. All the better for hearing your dulcet tones.
Oh.
Anyway, look, welcome to the Country Club. It's great to have you on the show. This is the first time I've had a chance to converse with you on the telephone.
Yeah.
So let's kick off with, tell us the story behind Don't Die Young. Did you write that yourself, or was it a co-write?
No, I don't co-write any of my songs.
Okay.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay, fair enough.
No, it's I've got 3 children, and as you probably can know with that song, there's obviously the 3 verses with the 3 children.
Yes.
And I'd always wanted to write a song about my kids, but I'm not the kind of songwriter that can write something if I sit down and decide I'm going to write something about something. It just sort of has to come relatively organically.
Okay.
And I think the line was, I hope I don't die young, and that was something that it kind of hit me, and it just basically took off from there. I wrote that song in about 2 or 3 hours, sitting around at home one day, and it was like, the inspiration came. It's like, it's got to be a snapshot of my life or our lives at that very moment in time.
Okay.
So it really was talking about my youngest son, how he's just about to start high school and how he's really excited, and that my son, my middle one, is a guitar player and had a partner, and then my daughter lives around the corner from me. And the funny thing is that they all hate their verses. They hate them so much. My youngest, who went to school, he went to high school for 2 days, and he hated it ever since.
Look, Wren, I'm not trying to be creepy or anything, but I see your photo online and all that sort of stuff, and you look very nice.
Thank you.
But and it's hard to imagine that you've actually got young'uns that are apparently of the age.
I'm a 30-year-old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gee,
yeah. So
you must have been 12 when you had him.
Yeah. I felt like it. Now that's the thing. So it's funny because they've all come to me individually and like, Mum, I really hate my verse. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but you're stuck with it for life.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, look, I'm a great grandfather. Once over, but I've got 4 absolutely adorable grandchildren. So, yeah, look, family. Family very important to me anyway.
Absolutely.
So...
Yeah, no, that's... family is huge to me, and I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne. My middle son, Ned, who's the guitarist, he moved from Adelaide last year, and he was, or the year before actually, and he's like, right, I'm going back to Melbourne. And I'm like, I just couldn't handle the thought of not having all my kids, like, under my wing. So we all moved to Melbourne.
Okay.
So I've got all my kids, and it's pretty much, ironically, that in keeping with that song, my daughter still lives around the corner.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well,
that's great. Yeah,
very different
nice.
from where it was, 4 years ago. We're still almost in the same sort of setup, but now we're in Melbourne.
Yeah. I find it's nice to have family reasonably close, location-wise. I can't imagine any of my family living in, another state, for instance.
No, I don't know if I can. I've had to deal with the thought that, one day one of my children might want to move overseas or go live in the state or something, and I just don't know if I could handle it.
I'm the same.
Mother ever that they can't possibly leave me.
Well, look, I think that our mob are so dependent on on us, grandparents and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, when I say dependent, not in a bad way. Just
no, not at all.
But we love having them close. You know what I mean? It
is precious. And they're really important times. You don't get to keep. That doesn't happen forever.
No.
Sort of change.
No,
and,
you're quite right.
Take it and realise how important it is at that moment.
Yeah. Look, I've been to Adelaide several times over the years, and I absolutely love it. I've often said that if I couldn't live in Melbourne, I would love to move to Adelaide. So speaking to someone who's done that journey in the opposite direction,
yep.
I'm just curious because Adelaide is such a nice town. City. But have you ever had cause to regret the move?
No, I think when we first moved, it was a little bit like, oh, what have we done? But I lived in Melbourne years before. So I lived in Melbourne in the early 2000s. In fact, my middle son, Ned, was born here.
Oh, right.
I lived here for about 6 years or 7 years. And then I've got a twin sister, and she lives in Adelaide.
A twin sister?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
She's actually on the album. She's a singer also.
Oh, excellent.
She's done a lot of the backing vocals.
Okay.
And my niece on the album, who's doing all the harmonies, that's my sister's daughter. So we're a great family on the album as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So all the backing harmonies that you're hearing, if you're hearing one predominant woman, it's my niece, Gina.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of singers.
Okay. Oh.
But I moved back to Adelaide to be with my family, really, my sister when my kids were little.
Okay.
And Adelaide was really good to me. I think the best thing for me was Adelaide really helped me have the music career that I have now had, because had I stayed in Melbourne, it would have been harder to crack because it's a bigger scene. It gave me the opportunity to sort of start, and we were getting gigs earlier on in venues that would be much harder to do at the level that we were at.
Okay.
In Melbourne. So
right.
Started off that way and really, really did well. We played, as you were saying earlier, in the Hegleys for about 10 years.
Okay.
But which was great. But then when I launched my own band, by that stage I'd been gigging in Adelaide for about 12 years, or 10 years or something, and about 12 years, and I'd basically played all the venues that I could play at the level that I was at. Because the thing with it, the problem with the Adelaide music scene, in my mind, is that there's just basically two levels. You're at a certain level, and unless you go away and become famous somewhere else, then you can't play the higher venues.
Really?
The bigger venues. There's not like a mixture of venues. It's like your base level venues or the big, entertainment centre type stuff.
Okay.
A lot of in between.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
No. Yeah, and that was my issue. I was just finding it really sort of, as a creative person, and you need sort of things to inspire you and get excited about. And I was just finding I wasn't feeling that anymore when I was performing. But I didn't actually move for music. I moved because my son moved, and
right. Yep.
I'm like, nope, that's not happening.
Okay.
But also, I had the album is a heartbreak album. It's a breakup album. When, my husband and I divorced and separated, and we were in the band together.
Okay.
And that became a bit of an issue also because, we were relatively known as a family band in Melbourne, in Adelaide, I should say.
Okay.
And when we broke up and I started my own band, the crowd, like the audience, just knew too much. And when I was performing, they'd be crying to my songs. And there are some really sad songs that I've written about this experience. But it was very difficult as a performer to go, are they crying because they're just sad for me? Or are they crying because these songs are emotionally, affecting them? And that's great. If people are emotional about stuff that they hear and that they relate to, I love that. But I don't want people to be just crying because they're sad for me. That's a very different thing.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and it really became complicated. And then I'd come off the stage and people come up to me and go, and they'd just give me their 2 cents about what had happened. And it just became too close and too sort of, I couldn't get away from that whole feeling. And I just started to realise I was performing on stage and I'd be going, oh my God, I'm actually hating this. It was really bad. Yeah. So I actually almost gave up music. I just moved to Melbourne.
Really?
I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, I don't know if what I do in Adelaide is going to stand here in Melbourne. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put another band together. And I'd recorded the album. It hadn't been mastered, but it was fully recorded and mixed. And I moved here with I did a final gig in Adelaide, and lots of people were asking me, "Are you going to gig again?" I'm like, "Don't know." What are you going to do with the album? Don't know.
Right.
I really came to Melbourne with no plans and gave myself the option to be like, it's okay to not do music if you don't want to do it anymore, because it'd been so full on, and the experience was so intense.
Yeah.
But then came here, and within a really small period of time went to a couple of venues, went to the Gem Bar and Lily Tavern and places like that, and just went, oh my God, I love this so much. And it just inspired it again. And spent another year, about a year and a half, putting together the current lineup that I now have, which are amazing. Mm-hmm. So I've got a 6-piece band here in Melbourne.
Right.
And we just did our album launch last night, which was so cool, at the Retreat Front Bar. And it's so interesting. That last night's gig was just so awesome. We had Nathan Steck supporting. It was such a great gig. I had such a wonderful experience and just absolutely loved doing it. And I was thinking at one point, even when I was doing the gig, I'm like, yep, I made the right choice. Okay. This was the right thing to do. So it's really long. So cool.
You've actually preempted my next question, so it's now become redundant.
Oh, yeah. Which was that, I wonder?
That's okay. I mean, you answered it anyway without being asked, so that's fine.
That's
fine. But I've got another question, just quickly.
Sure.
Where can people buy your music?
At the moment, on Bandcamp.
Okay.
Yep, it's on there on Bandcamp. You can buy the digital version, and you can also buy the vinyl. So we've just got the vinyl printed. And to be honest, I don't think every album needs to be a vinyl album. There's plenty of albums out there that don't necessarily have to be, or it's not necessary.
Yep.
I don't think vinyl is like the be-all and end-all,
yeah.
But I think that there are some albums that really enjoy I think the experience of vinyl is really in keeping with the whole album. And to be honest, I think this album is so good on vinyl.
It's a great album. It's a great album, regardless of whether it's digital, vinyl, or on CD. I actually don't. I'm not a big fan of vinyl. Okay, I don't understand. I don't understand the fixation that people have with vinyl. And a lot of my fellow presenters are like that. They absolutely love vinyl, and I don't know why. And we have these raging arguments about
Honestly, I think it's the experience. It's like sitting down. Like I went to my son the other day, and we put on the vinyl. It was the first time I'd heard it, and he sat down in the room and he put the vinyl on, and then he put the album artwork, and we just sitting there looking at the artwork and listening to the songs, and then he got up and turned it over and listened to the next lot. It's almost like it's the experience. I think I know that the sound is a little bit better, but I just think it's actually the experience of putting on an album. So it's almost like going into a retro car or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't drive any better, but it's just...
Yeah. It just makes you realise just how much, car technology has improved over the years.
Yeah, no, I've had a few debates about vinyl too. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I understand when digital music first came out, the problem with compression and all that sort of stuff. But those days are gone, I mean, it's, so...
Yeah, I listen to music all day, every day, and I do like the idea. I think I like it's almost like a Japanese tea ceremony, I reckon, having a vinyl album.
Right.
It's the actual, I'm going to put on an album, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to put on an album, and, then you might just sit down and have a drink or have a chat to your friend, but it's almost, it's the part of actually putting on an album. I think that's the difference as opposed to just whacking on something on Spotify, which, I do all day, every day.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is, for me, personally.
Yeah. No, I get that. But the fact is that, technology has advanced to the stage where, hard copies of music just don't exist anymore. Well, they do, but, I think...
And if you were like me, I was the most messiest teenager on the planet.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember buying, my first vinyls were, what was it? I got Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight.
Okay, yeah.
Love that song, still love that song.
Yeah, it's
But
great.
I remember going and buying it and then, playing it a few times. And I think within a very small period of time, I destroyed that album. So that's the problem with hard copy. And, it doesn't, you can damage it.
That's been the guts of my argument. I mean, you can put a CD on hundreds of thousands of times and it's, the 100,000th time you listen to it, it's exactly as good as it was the first time, But you can't say that about vinyl. Every time you play it, you damage it,
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like it'd be very...
Yeah. I mean, the damage might be minuscule, but it adds up. I mean, if you play it... I had an album, John Mayall and the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton, right? And I, being a guitar player, I wanted to copy all of Clapton's licks and everything, and I destroyed that album. Going backwards and forwards on the noodle and scratching the guts out of it. I had to go out and buy another copy of it,
Yeah.
But but then again, you can't really do that with CDs, So
No, exactly. I mean, it's ironic. I've got 4 boxes now of vinyl, and I don't have a record player.
I'm the same.
I have to go and listen to my own album.
Yeah, no, I got hundreds and hundreds of vinyl LPs, and I've got nothing to play them on,
You need to get one. You've got no excuse. You've already got I've just got hundreds of my own album.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I know. All right, now, geez, we're nearly out of time. This has been such a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Well, thank you. Now, all right, where are we going? All right, tell me, who are your main influences as a musician?
I think I've been really influenced by the whole hippie era. I call it the hippie era. I was born in '69. I'm a child of the hippie.
Yeah.
My mum was a raging hippie.
So was I.
Yeah.
And my wife.
So, yeah, there we go. So brought up on Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Donovan, all the real folky stuff.
Okay.
Listened to a lot of that for most of my life. And for early parts of my life, I lived overseas in India.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't have music, there wasn't radio. So I only ever listened, music to me was what my mother was listening to.
Okay.
All I ever heard.
Right.
And that is the heart of, that stuff is, that's a real folk, 70s, Eagles, all that stuff. It just feels so at home to me.
Okay, yep.
So as I've grown up, I've listened to other stuff. So I think Lucinda Williams was a huge influence.
Right.
She's probably the biggest, more recent influence in the last decade or two.
Uh-huh.
And then more recently, I've been very influenced by Brandi Carlile. I think she's amazing.
All right, yeah.
And she, I'm closer to her these days musically than I was to Lucinda Williams. But when the Heggertys first started, we were a covers band. This was years and years ago, and we were just covering. My ex-husband was very aware of all of this genre, and more so than most people I knew at the time.
Okay.
And he found all of these musicians I'd never heard of, and gave me, and because we were covering them, it gave me, because it's interesting to cover something, you also kind of embrace it or you kind of absorb it to some extent.
Yep.
And I think I just got so much, I didn't realise how much I was absorbing, but yeah, all of a sudden I could start made the decision to sort of try and write a song because no one in my band was doing it at that point, and we were a covers band.
Right,
People
yeah.
were like, when are you going to have an album out? I'm like, what, of somebody else's song?
Yeah.
So we sort of, I was like, all right, I'm going to have a go at writing a country song. And I didn't expect any outcome. I had no idea I could write a song. And I just started putting a song together called Alice and took it home one day, and my husband's like, I think that's a song.
Yeah.
He starts to sort of move it around and go, that's probably your bridge and that's probably your verse. And I'm like, oh my God, it actually sounds good. And then we start playing it with the band, and we're like, it actually is a song. So kind of that's sort of how I sort of write music, I think. But I honestly, I didn't know I could do it.
Well, you don't know until you try.
No.
All right. Look, unfortunately, we were right out of time.
Sure.
Wren, and I'd love to keep talking with you for the rest of the show, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. But look, I thank you for taking the time to have this chat with me on your Sunday afternoon, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Anytime. Hit me up.
Yeah, well, look, you're a great songwriter and and a great performer. So, I can imagine lots of good stuff coming from you over the ensuing years. So I'll be there, hopefully playing it, and we can have another chat. All right, thanks again, Wren, and look, all the best to you. Wish you every success, you and the band, and hopefully I'll catch you playing live around Melbourne at some time.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful chat.
And I've really enjoyed it, so thanks again. And
My pleasure.
Look forward to doing it again. And like I said, all the best to you and the people you care about. So
thank you.
All the best. Okay, bye-bye.